Welcome to the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast, where we take the mystery out of today's top security threats and solutions. Fixing software bugs is critical to keeping bad actors out. It's a continuous process called patch management. While its purpose is to keep systems up to date, the practice itself has not kept up with the times. Businesses have moved apps and infrastructure to the cloud, but patch management remains on premises. In this episode of Cybersecurity Simplified, we'll discuss why it's time for a patch management makeover. Hi, I'm your co host, Susanna Song.
And I'm Dave Barton.
Joining us today on the pod to talk all things patch is Peter Ritter, Senior Manager of Strategic Alliance of Ottomax. Hi, Peter. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to join the podcast today.
And Peter, give our viewers and our audience a quick background on what you do and your experiences with patch management.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I ran my own patch management service way back in the early 2000s for banks and credit unions. We had auditors coming in at both the state and federal level to make sure that everybody's money was safe. So deploying patches out that way, and then moved over to the vendor and was actually a sales engineer before moving into a sales role. So I've been, in this patch management space, endpoint security space, for, like I said, for almost 20 years. And now here at Ottomax, my goal here is to work with partners and bring our technologies together so that we can help serve our customers together.
And David, as our Overwatch CTO, you vet our technology and our products, and you ensure that our clients are receiving best of breed products. What drew you to Ottomax, and how do they differentiate in the marketplace?
Being a longtime security practitioner, one of the things we always struggle with is keeping systems patched. Whether you've got 10 users or 10 systems or 1,000 or 10,000, the problem set is still there. How do we stay ahead of the bad guys who are trying to exploit unpatched or zero-day exploits we don't know much about? And that problem set it hasn't gone away. We still struggle with that. And so when we started talking with Ottomax and we saw the simplicity of the product, how well it works, the fact that I can do things outside of just operating system patches, like I can patch Java and I can patch other applications, those were all selling points, right? And on top of that, the fact that it's cloud-based takes it a step further, makes it easier for me to deploy, manage, and ultimately make available to our customers, right? Because at the end of the day, high wire networks, we don't have a lot to patch, and we have some systems, but most of our apps are cloud native. So we have endpoints, we have workstations, those kind of things. But the bigger picture is our end customers, they struggle with this. So Ottomax is a great fit for us. And Peter, for the folks in the audience who don't know much about you guys yet, our goal is to help them get to know you. Tell us in your mind what do you hear? What do other people tell you is why Ottomax is their solution of choice?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that cloud native. I mean, Amazon and Google started offering the ability to rent servers and computers over 10 years ago. And it kind of, as you said, David, right, a lot of applications have moved to be in the cloud. Salesforce is one example. A lot of things are out there, but there's still applications that are homegrown or somebody paid a lot of money years ago that still kind of require that on-prem. So, with the pandemic, a lot of people said, hey, it's time that we move off of that. And when moving off of that also means that, you're also moving away things from like being on-prem, you're moving away from VPN licenses.
Yep.
But then you still have these, these endpoints that are still missing the patches. Like you said, the operating system patches, the third-party patches still need to be pushed out there, but there's no connection anymore back to that, infrastructure that they had before, because everything is kind of moving to the cloud.
Exactly.
And that's kind of why we came along, right? We said, hey, we need to kind of like get the patch management space into the next age, right? And be very flexible and very, able to actually deploy those patches. Because unfortunately, a lot of those legacy players out there that have been doing this for over 10 years, while they're moving to the cloud, it's kind of a hybrid solution. There's still some VPN requirements, and it's just not working now with a lot more people working from home. And we want to take advantage of getting those patches out to those endpoints. And that's kind of why we were created, right? To really focus on that cloud native approach to make it easier to actually make sure that we can get the patches deployed to the endpoints wherever they are in the world.
So, what are
So
some of the challenges for businesses who depend on an on-prem patch solution versus give me some use cases of how you've helped businesses, especially during this remote time, uh, being cloud native?
That's a great question. And one of the things that we're seeing is that, again, they've been doing this for a long time. They've added in Macs, they've added in Linux, and a lot of our customers, they've got a different solution for each operating system. So now they're not managing just one on-prem solution that's not working very well with people working from home. They're managing three different solutions. So adding a lot more time to their day, a
Mhm.
lot more complexity, trying to figure this all out. So that's a big challenge. And that's kind of the reason that when we looked at this, we wanted to make sure that we had a single platform for the major three operating systems to make it, again, easier for our customers and easier for our partners to get those patches deployed.
so you're just to be clear for our audience, you can patch Macs, you can patch Windows, you can patch Linux.
Yep, you can patch all of those three operating systems with the Ottomax.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, the other point I wanted to touch on is you talked about it lightly, Susanna. You kind of mentioned it as well. Work from home, right? We've
Mhm.
we've gone through the pandemic. We're on, hopefully, knock on wood, we're on the back end of that, depending on who you listen to. Even if we're not, I don't think the go in the office model is going to be consistent anymore. So, talk a little bit about where you see the value from being able to patch anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I am hearing a lot of people that, our company, a lot of other companies, we see it with the real estate market, right? People are moving around, right? They realize like, hey, we're not going to go back to the office. I don't need to be in the city. Maybe it's time for me to kind of, think about what my situation is. And, some people are kind of moving around because they do want to move to maybe a slightly different house that has their own home office, right? One
Right.
for themselves, one for their spouse, and they want to make that very convenient. And that's a big investment to make, right? We all have 30-year mortgages usually. People are not going to move back to the city in a couple of years. So this is definitely kind of the new way, I think. And yeah, if your company is still kind of using those on-prem kind of applications, you're going to have some limitations with that. And yeah, that's why we've seen everybody moving to these cloud-based applications. And like I said earlier, it's been over 10 years since they first came out, but there's still a lot of companies that haven't moved everything over there. And I think
Right.
the last year or so has pushed that more. But the other thing that's too you have to think about is what are the steps? What are the ways to make sure things are staying secure? So it's not just going to the cloud, but finding a solution that's going to kind of solve all my check all my check boxes. Quite honestly, right? The operating systems, the OS patches, the third-party patches, but then also taking it to the next level and adding in the intelligence, the automation, right, to make this easier because yeah, the IT staffs are still kind of struggling, right? If you're a smaller company, you're working with somebody like Highwire, or you're kind of doing things on your own, or maybe a combination. So you want to add in that automation so that basically, you got the easy switch and things are being taken care of.
Yeah, and I want to kind of explore what you just said right now, Peter. And this might be more for insight from David about, the importance of automation. But on top of that, how much management is required for a patch solution?
So, that's a great question. The challenge we struggle with patching is, we still have systems out there that are vulnerable to patches that have been built for years, right? Um, and so those need fixed. And a solution like this makes it easy for us to find them and get them fixed. The B piece of that is 0-day issues, right? Microsoft releases a patch tomorrow that fixes a problem that is a brute force immediate system compromise if we don't get it patched. If you're not managing that and you're not watching that around the clock, you may miss it, right? And so some of these legacy systems, they require more care and feeding. Peter, I'd love to get some perspective on efficiencies that you guys see using the cloud native approach versus maybe the on-prem. If you have anything like that, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah,
Um,
I do have something on that. What one interesting thing before I go into the details, and is kind of what has changed over the last 10 years, especially, is the time it takes the kind of the bad guys to actually create an exploit. 0 days are ones where nobody is doesn't know about it, right? But those are actually a little bit more challenging for the hackers to do. And so there's not as many as those, but there's a lot of risk with that because there's just unknowns. But then there's another group of hackers that have figured out that when Microsoft or any other vendor kind of releases a patch, they release the details. They talk about what it is fixing and kind of give an analogy of your house. It's kind of like saying, hey, the house at this address, their smart lock doesn't work anymore if you type in 1111. Well, now everybody knows the code to get into that house. They just have to look for that brand name and they can walk right in. So, it's taking a lot less time now for the second group of hackers here to basically just wait for the vendor to tell them, yep, here's what's missing.
right.
And let's go ahead and create an exploit.
That's
And
right.
what I've seen to kind of go back to your question is that, customers before they, work with us, they're taking 90 days to get the patches out there.
Wow.
90 days on average to get patches after a vendor releases it. The scary part is it takes less than a week for the hackers to create an exploit.
That's right.
And that's the gap.
So, Peter, just to clarify, so then a company like Ottomax, the service you provide is to go in there and expedite what businesses can't do alone. Get those
Exactly.
patches out there.
Yep, get those patches out there. And we've gone back and done surveys and looked at our customers, and we found that over 90% of our customers get those patches out in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
Really
huge.
closing up that gap.
That's right. Yeah, that's great statistics because it helps drive home the point to your question earlier, Susanna. Why do you need a partner to help you? One is we're going to help reduce that patch time, right? Which ultimately reduces the risk to our customers. So us partnering with Automox means we deliver a service that's got a great platform behind it. It's functional, it's efficient, it reduces our risk, and frankly, we shift that administrative time from the end customer back to us, so they can focus on doing what they do best, which is managing their business.
Yeah, and also to add to that, I mean, there's what they call defense in layers here, right? Sometimes if you do a firewall change or if you do other things to your network, your risk for deploying a certain patch goes down. The problem, though, is that people are working from home, so you don't get that advantages anymore. So that's another area where something like Highwire can help, not just with the patch deployment, but looking at all the different pieces in security to make sure
That's
that
right.
you're protected from multiple angles.
Yep, agree.
Do you guys think that most cyber attacks happening, especially to kind of the mid market and down, they don't have a strong patch management service or solution out there? Because it reminds me of we just had an event in June. We had the former CISO of the CIA. He gave a keynote with David. And one thing that he mentioned that I thought was very enlightening is how hardening your endpoints is one of the most important security measures to prevent attacks. Um, can you elaborate a little bit on, it's almost you talk about defense in layers or defense
In
in
depth.
depth,
Yep.
right? So is that kind of just the first layer that you must have and must provide?
Yeah, patch management is, it's not very sexy. It's kind of boring, but it goes back to my analogy, right? If you're leaving your door wide open on your house, people walking right in. I lock my doors. I make sure my garage doors are closed every night. Don't we all do that? And that's kind of like the idea with patch management, right? Let's make this a little bit more secure with a simple thing, right? I mean, yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, there's a lot of patches out there, so it does take some effort, but it is not all that complex. And it really comes down to automation, right? If you can make it easy, like I have a smart lock at my door, if I'm up in my bedroom and realize, hey, is the front door locked or not? I don't have to get out of bed and I can test it, right? That's kind of what we're doing here with Ottomax, right? We can have these ways to sense things. If it's not done, hit a button and it's taken care of.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think when you think about defense in depth, patching strategy is one of the key pillars. If I'm
Mhm.
not patching, it doesn't matter what else I do. There's a pretty good chance I'm going to get compromised. So patching has to be a foundation to your security program. If you look at any of the frameworks out there, patching is one of the pillars. You just have to do it right. And to your point, Susanna, most people don't, especially when things are, you're busy, you've got all these other competing priorities. Patching gets pushed on the back burner.
Mhm.
With a service like this, we take care of that for you. We put it in the front. We make that part of our delivery so that you don't have to worry about those patches that are 3 years old that you don't have applied, right? That could cause you an immediate compromise if somebody got in.
All right. Well, thank you so much to Peter Ritter of Ottomax. We love the partnership between Overwatch and Ottomax. Also, thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you have feedback about today's podcast or questions for Peter, David, or myself, please email us at marketing@highwirenetworks.com or just leave a comment on YouTube or whichever platform you are listening to this podcast on. And be sure to join us for our next episode, The Case for Managed Security. Until next time, I'm Susanna Song.
I'm Dave Barton.
And this is Cybersecurity Simplified. From all of us here at Overwatch by Highwire Networks, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast. To learn more, visit us at highwirenetworks.com/podcast.